Um, well, first of all, thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. And I have this wonderful long speech that Melanie has prepared. Thank you, Melanie. What I really want to do, and Melanie is a great writer, and what I do is I read it so I know what basically I should say, but then I usually say things I shouldn't say. Um, but let me first ask, how many people in this room, is this your first time to Family Cafe? Okay, so we have some first timers. All right, how many of you do not really know very much about the Agency for Persons with Disabilities? Okay, so we have some new people. So what I want is for those of you that know a lot, and I see some faces in here that know a lot, a lot. I want you to help me, okay? Because I think sometimes people learn better from their peers than they do from somebody sitting up here talking to them. But let me first start by saying, for those of you that are new, my name is Barbara Palmer. I'm the director of the Agency for Persons with Disabilities, and we serve about 50,000 people in the state. We have a budget of about $1.3 billion. Of that, about 1.1 billion are direct services to people. The rest of it is our administrative costs. So you can see our administrative costs are very low. Most of it is direct services. And just so you know, we do not really provide the services. What we do is we provide oversight and contract out for 26 different services with different providers. How many are providers in this room? Okay, so the providers, everything from companion to respite to speech therapy, physical therapy, behavior analyst, all kinds of services, adult day training. It's literally services that can wrap around an entire family to be able to keep people in their homes or in a smaller environment out of an institution. That's the whole purpose of the waiver and what our agency does. So we have a lot of people throughout the state. We have about 3,000 employees throughout the state, and we have 6 different regions, and each region is different because you can imagine that Northwest Florida is a little different than Miami. And in fact, we have several of our what we call ROMs. There are regional operations managers. Leslie, and it was just 2 of them. Clarence, where is Clarence? I don't see. There's Clarence back there. And Leslie, stand up so they can see you. And she's in the Northeast, and he's in Central. But all the other APD staff, please put your hands up. Okay. What we're going to do at the end, just so you'll know, is APD staff will come up here and be available for any questions that you might have. We want questions here about the big picture as much as possible. If you have a personal issue, which a lot of you probably will, we want to do that one-on-one, as opposed to, I don't think, number one, it's anybody else's business what your business is. And secondly, I want to be able to take the time for the bigger questions, and then you get your individual attention. And if we can't give you the answer today, I promise you we will follow up. And so we'll get a productive meeting out of this. But let's do this. Who can tell the new people the different unique abilities that we serve? Who can name one of them? Prater Willie. Intellectual disability. What? Spina bifida. Cerebral palsy. Down syndrome. Autism. Yay! You win the prize. Who said that? There you go. Phelan McDermott. It's a new one this year that the legislature authorized, and there are very few people in the world with this. but it is a very debilitating and very serious unique ability. I'm still learning about it. Is there anybody in here that knows about it or has that? Well, there is somebody in the Tampa area that I'm going to go visit, and they are, I think it was one of the second people in the world to be diagnosed, and they know a lot. So we're going to go talk with them about it. But anyway, those are the areas that we serve, and so you can imagine the wide variety of services that are necessary to be able to assist people. Because some people are absolutely smarter than me, smarter than anybody in this room. And then you have people that have challenges intellectually, and then you have individuals who physically have really, really huge challenges. So it's a wide range of services, and so every single person has to be treated uniquely. And we have what we call, for those of you that are new, an I budget. And in this state, I think they have it in some of the other states, but it's different than what we had in the past. What we had in the past was once you figured out what somebody needed, if they needed speech therapy and they needed something else and something else, if you spent money in here and you had leftover money at the end of the month, you lost it. And with the I budget, the way it works is that we have a case manager or a waiver support coordinator that work very hard with your families and with the advocates themselves to figure out what it is they need. What do they need to be independent as possible? And then they authorize those services, and then the services are delivered either in the home or they go wherever the services are where they need them. So that's basically how it works, and it's called an I budget. It's a certain amount of money. So at the end of the month, if you haven't used it all, let's say you go on vacation and you don't need it for something like adult day training or whatever, you can save it and do dental or do something else that you want to, just like anybody. So that's the whole idea of the I budget, and that's basically what we do. And sometimes it's very challenging, and the one thing I want everybody to leave here, if you don't remember anything else, please remember this. We want to hear from you. If there is a problem, if there is something that you can tell us to make us better, we need to hear that. Because we can only be as good as we know we are bad. If you know what I mean. We're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. So you're going to need to, before you leave, make sure you get our emails and all of that so that you know how you can contact us. Did you have a question?
Yes. What is the time frame once you or your office or whatever has been contacted for a response besides an auto response?
In what way? I don't know what you're saying.
If I have an issue and I contact your office asking questions about an issue, how long does it take for you to respond to the person?
I'm going to let our ROM say that. If you call a regional office, they each have systems set up. If you send something to me, I send it back to them for them to, so the best bet for you is to contact them, because you'll get a faster response. Leslie, you want to answer that?
Typically, we try to return your call or your email within 24 to 48 hours. It just depends. Sometimes when there's a question, we do need to research it a little bit before we get back to you. So it usually is about 24 to 48 hours we try to get back to you.
Thank you.
You want to add anything?
No, actually it's the same as the central region.
Okay. I'm glad to hear that. Okay. Well, that's basically what we do. And I think it is good that we ask questions. So some of you that have been around for a while, is there anything that you think these new people should know that maybe you've had to work through? I'm looking at some of the Family Care Council people here. The people, would you all stand up, those of you that are on the Family Care Council? There you go. Let me tell you about these individuals. They work so hard. They are volunteers. There are 14 councils throughout the state. They're all appointed by the governor to the council. They have an executive council that meets in Orlando, as a matter of fact, every month or every other month. And they are the ones that guide our agency. They are not really policy making, but I can tell you I don't do policies and things without running it by Family Care Council. They're all made up of people that are self-advocates. They are family members. And the statute outlines exactly who can be on that. But anybody can be involved in your local Family Care Council. That's where we get information about things that we can improve and get feedback. So would any of you like to say anything about the Family Care Council? Go ahead, Paul. She was past president.
Hi, I'm Pauline Lips, and most of you all know me, or you should probably.
Yep.
No, I don't. I think my voice carries. But I am at every single time that I see Director Palmer give a presentation. She always is so complimentary, and I just wanted to tell you how we appreciate and value the communication with APD so that together, because what you said is absolutely true, you come to us, we come to you with issues that we see happening locally that we know that need to be addressed, and with the communication and the open dialogue between the agency and the Family Care Council, I can say that you all should be on the Family Care Council because we do
A lot of
work. But we do appreciate. We were having a discussion just a few minutes ago. We're having a discussion about how the communication was not always received well between the councils and the agency, and that has turned around under your direction, and we appreciate it across the entire state.
You know, when we first got in, when the governor first got in, there were how many people on the overall council? I don't know. He's appointed how many now? Where's Stephanie?
We have the ability of 150.
Yeah, hundreds.
200 people.
Hundreds.
I don't know that we're all full, but we do have the capacity of 200 across the state members.
Well, anyway, that's what they do. So let's talk about the waiver. I mentioned yesterday, for those of you, most of you know what the waiver is. The waiver is really an allocation of dollars for an individual to keep them in their homes. Federal government says everybody has the right to institutionalization, but you can waive that right for services to be wrapped around you and your family to stay in your home or a smaller environment. That's what the waiver is. And that's what all these services are that I was telling you about. We have 26 different services. So we have about 32,000 or over 32,000 people that are on the waiver. Another 20,000 approximately that are on the wait list. But in the last 5 years or 4 years, we've taken almost, or offered, and we'll be taking off 5,000 people in the last 3 to 4 years. No other state's done anything like that. No other state. And that's the governor and the legislature really caring about people with unique abilities, and they really do. I haven't met one that hasn't been receptive when we go in and talk about the needs that you have. They are very receptive. We just have to keep it organized about what we're doing and setting priorities right for what we're asking for, and certainly taking people off the wait list has to be at the top of the list. There are more people that want to come off. So let me explain to you how that works. It used to, years ago, be based on how long you were on there. And then they realized, you know, that is not really the right way to go, because there are people that have very severe needs that need to come off really fast. And then those that might be younger that are getting stuff from the state plan and don't really need it yet. Okay? Let me back up and explain how that works if you don't know. If you're under 21 and you're Medicaid eligible, you get money through ACA, which is the Agency for Healthcare Administration, okay, on the state plan, which will give you the services that you need basically there. After age 21, then you come to the Agency for Persons with Disability. When a disaster happens in a family, like maybe parents die or something horrible, or a real crisis happens and a child is left alone for whatever reason, we declare them a family of one, even if they're under 21, and we will take them at APD. But other than that, they're served by ACA. So the bulk of the people that we serve are over age 21. So basically what happens is with the 20,000 people that we have on the wait list, about 9,000 of them are children under 21. So you can see that half, even though they're on the wait list, they're not really ready to come on the waiver unless something really horrible happens. So the wait list, even though they're on it, is really only about 9,000 or 10,000 people. So every year, what the legislature does is they take people off that are in critical need. And let me explain what those are. Children in foster care. And believe me, we only have about 50 or 60 that we've taken off this past year, but those people are those individuals are in critical need. Critical need. Also, caregivers that are over age 70. For goodness sakes, don't you think they need a break? They need some help, you know? So if a caregiver is over age 70, then we're going to do that, okay? The other one is somebody that is really and truly, really in critical need. Did I miss any? I think that's it. So when those people are the ones that they fund every year fully to take those people off. The other thing that the legislature does is they give us, and the governor's recommended every year, money for employment to work with Voc Rehab and to enhance what Voc Rehab does for those that are in what we call Category 5 that are coming out of school. Because when you come out of school, what? You don't have anything to do during the day. If you don't get a job, what are you going to do? A lot of people go on to higher education, and that's wonderful, but there's a whole bunch of people that don't. And so those people need to get jobs. So they give us money to help those people that come out of school, if they're on the wait list, to give them internships and jobs for them so they can get started the right way in life. So those are the priorities that we set. And then there's a whole other group that the legislature did something really neat this year, because I think the need was there. And that is in Category 6, which is all the rest of the people that are over 21 but are not in any of those other categories. But they're on the wait list. And some of them have been there for a long time. So what the legislature did was they said, if you're over age 30 and you are, what was the other thing? More than 10 years on the wait list, and you're in Category 6, you're coming off. And that's going to start July 1. Okay? So that's great? So those are the kind of things that we're trying to do now, is to look at ways that we can help people. Just in some cases, it's just a little hand up. It really, truly is. It's not a whole lot of services for, but then we have people that cost $250,000 a year. Okay? It can range anywhere from $2,000 or $3,000 to that much. Okay? So you can see that each person is unique. Each person has to be looked at in detail so that we make sure that we get the services that they need. And question.
So is that anyone who's been on the wait list over 10 years or going to receive services?
If they're age 30. And they have high level of need.
Another question. Is there any statistics on how many people are retiring?
They may not be able to hear her back there.
I'll talk louder. Are there any statistics on how many people are retiring to the state of Florida that are already over 70, and then they come in, they just moved here, they're over 70, they're young adult, starts getting the services, and someone who's been on the wait list for 18 years.
Did y'all hear that?
Sits and waits.
Okay, she wants to know if somebody came in from out of state and they were over age 70, the parents, would they come off the wait list?
No, it's my understanding that the new people because I'm not over 70 yet.
Well,
The new parents coming in.
if that's happening, it's not in mass. I mean, I don't know how many that would be happening to.
Well, I noticed all the highlights last night, they were all people who have moved out of state to our state. Why people who have lived here for 26 years are still waiting to receive service.
What highlights are that?
When the governor talked about the three families, one was from Minnesota that was receiving service, had just moved from Louisville, Minnesota.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
All three of those.
Yeah, I don't know that that's happened that much, but that's something we ought to check into. You know, nobody's asked that question before, and let's do that. Our stat people, let's take a look at that, because what we could do at least is put the people that have been here higher priority than those that are just coming in, even though they would still be in that category. You know what I'm saying? We could do something like that. I mean, let's take a look at that. That's a good question. Yep.
Yeah, Director Palmer, I appreciate your leadership.
Thank you.
We've come a long way. My son has been in the waiting list for 14 years. I just moved him from category 6 to category 3 because my spouse is over 70 years old, and my time is now spent more in caring for that family member. You mentioned that every year.
Are you on the waiver now?
Yes.
Yay.
For 14 years. No, waiver, no. I mean,
No.
the waiting list.
Oh.
My
Well,
son
you'll be coming off then.
from category 6 to category 3. However, I was told, I'm from Miami-Dade, that if I had a crisis, I could
Yes.
come off.
Yes.
And I said, no, I don't have a crisis yet. So my question to you is, according to every year, the legislature is getting people out of the waiting list. Anybody in category 3 that doesn't have an emergency, a crisis, I think when are they coming out?
Category 3's coming off. You'll be coming off in July if you're in category 3. Yeah. 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 And let me
I have a question on the housing and your waiver.
get her name to be sure. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
How are you realize, I don't know, you realize that there's communities coming on board that are called intentional communities?
Yes.
Just like the one in Lakeland, Noah's Ark, the one in Melbourne, Promise. And
Yeah.
there's going to be one coming, we're working on, Casa Familia in
Right.
Miami-Dade County. I'm a board member of that.
Which one?
Casa Familia.
Okay.
We're in the planning stages.
Uh-huh.
We are moving ahead. In 5 years, we're going to have an intentional community in Miami-Dade. With the state transition plan and the waiver services, how do you see
Those happening? Yeah.
Do you see that
Let me.
happening?
No, I'm
How
glad
do
you asked
wanna
that.
help?
You brought up two really important things that I want to comment on. The first thing is crisis, and then I'll get to the other one. Because some of you might want to understand what is a crisis. Well, a crisis looks different for every single person. There's no way to define what a crisis is. And sometimes we make mistakes, and we don't really acknowledge that maybe something is a crisis. So if that happens, you've got to keep talking to us until you get our attention and we really make it happen. Because sometimes we don't, that's what I mean. Now, crisis is different for every single person. We did over 800, almost 850 crises last year. And you know, the funny thing is that I've asked our staff to look at the stats on this, and our crisis numbers are going up. And we also have what's called SANS, which is, well, I don't know what it even stands for, but what is it? Significant additional needs. It's for somebody that's already on the waiver for them to get more money when they have a crisis. Okay, so somebody on the waiver can still have a crisis that changes the way their life is. So a lot of people, a lot of that is increasing. And you're saying, well, gosh, we're taking all these people off the wait list. Why is that increasing? That doesn't make sense to me. It should be the other way around. Well, what we're finding, and we're doing more research now, we're finding that a lot of it is because of aging caregivers. That's a big factor. okay? And when we say aging, you don't have to be 70 to have a crisis. I mean, there are a lot of people in their 50s and 60s that have worked so hard taking care of their loved ones that they have their own health issues. So that's a crisis. When somebody becomes a danger to themselves or others, or if a family member cannot take care of that person, just can't do it, those are crises. That's a crisis. So in some ways, that's increasing. So that's what goes on with crisis. Now, let's talk about these new housing developments. That's what I call them, housing. They call them, what do they call them? Intentional communities. I don't know what that means. I mean, to me, it's a housing development for people with unique abilities. And the federal government right now has been frowning on a lot of that. If that facility, and I agree with this part of it, if that facility is so self-sustaining that the person that's in there never has to leave, then that's not right. You know, that's just not right. Okay, but if it is a place where a person has their own apartment, they can go to work, they can use public transportation, they go somewhere to adult day training, or they have, in other words, they're part of the community, but they're all living in the same place. So what? That's awesome, you know? So what? I mean, and not only so what, great. I know when my mother, when she retired, she went to a place, you know, and they wouldn't let people under 16 live in there. I mean, you know, sometimes people want to have they want to be around people that are like themselves, that are older or whatever it is. Now, these facilities also, in many cases, take all kinds of people, not just people with unique abilities. But the whole idea is to give them really nice environments. So the ones that we have looked at, we've gone with the Agency for Healthcare Administration and looked at the one in Jacksonville. We've looked at the Lakeland one, and they all meet the criteria that will meet the federal government guidelines. And we're going to Loveland. We'll probably end up going to yours too. So, you know, the idea of this is to give people choices. Who in the world doesn't want choices? You don't want to live there, you don't have to live there. But give somebody choices in their life. So that's kind of what's going on with that. Yes?
I'm one of the ones who just got taken out because I had a crisis. I'm 63 years old and I had a crisis. I have a 16-year-old son. I was so excited to get met with.
And what happened?
I'm still in a crisis. He still beats on me. Because I was told by the coordinator, and this is that med waiver is more for people that are 21. Because she's 16, why did I get crisis?
No. Guess what? You are in crisis.
Why did I get crisis?
Where are you from?
Hernando County.
Hernando County? Where's Hernando County? He's your man.
I know, he's the one that got me to help me get crisis. So once I got crisis, everything, they don't give me anything except breakfast. They don't give home health.
You need to, will you work with her? He'll work with you. He'll work with you. Okay? All right. We'll take care of her. It'll be all right. Yes?
Hi. My daughter is on the way down with the crisis. And my question is, I think my biggest concern is I'd like to advocate for somehow for increased wages for the direct care staff because we're losing.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Messing their kids up. You know, we're so happy that they're getting in a group home and then.
Right. Let me comment on that. The federal government, and you're right, the direct care workers, especially the ones that are going in homes and doing personal hygiene, all the things that are so hard to do and so important. And they don't want shift work on that. You know, you want a relationship with somebody that is doing that kind of work with you, somebody you know and you can depend on. So funding for this is really important. In the Department of Labor, this, as you all probably know, if you don't, what happened was the Department of Labor passed a rule that basically says that people that are doing direct care have to be paid minimum wage. It's unconscionable, really, to think that they weren't paid minimum wage, to be honest with you. But anyway, they have to be paid minimum wage. So the legislature this past year increased the rates for people that are the direct caregivers like that. But quite frankly, I'm not sure it was enough. And the reason they didn't do it is because they didn't want to overdo it. So, and we are doing an actuarial study right now to determine what those rates really need to be, to make sure that those people are being paid that, so that, and we're going to do that, okay? And we will be reporting that back to the legislature, recommending the rate, the appropriate rate that needs to happen for those direct care individuals. So that's one thing. They also did some other rate increases. Another area that we are looking at right now, and it may not affect anybody in this room, but believe me, when it affects people, it is huge. And that is people that have dual diagnosis, where they have mental health issues as well as developmental disability. We have people in the forensic system that, quite frankly, some of them just made mistakes, but they have to be trained, and we've got to work with them and make sure we place them properly out in the community. We have people that are not so good that are forensic, okay, but we still have to let them out. And so we've got to have 24/7 line of sight. We can't lock them up, but we've got to make sure we know where they are, because they can be a danger to themselves or others. Okay, so that's really very important. And then we have those people that have just intensive behavior problems for whatever reason, whether they have a mental health problem or not. And so those categories, number one, they cost a fortune. Okay, because you can imagine the wraparound services. Plus, we have no way of really measuring whether they're getting better. And they can get better. There are people that think people that have mental health problems can't get better if they have a developmental disability. That is not true. That is just not true. And so we are now working with providers to do provider development, and we're doing an actuarial study again. Okay, legislature gave us $400,000 for us to now do an actuary study to see what should the rates be for those people, because that is different, very different than anything else that's going on. Most of these people right now are institutionalized in some way. So we need to get them in smaller environments, 4- and 6-bed environments. And you know what? Their behaviors will go away. If you put people in family settings and you give them the services and the nurturing and what they need, they won't have those kind of behaviors. So that's what we're working on now. We're doing provider development and trying to get those kinds of places up and going as quickly as we can, so we can take some of these people that have very desperate needs. Okay.
What are you doing for provider development?
Well, what we're doing, you haven't heard anything yet, but this is it, okay? You're the first to know.
Can I share my knowledge?
Yes, you can. What we're doing is, and we will be doing this probably in the next couple weeks, okay? So it really hasn't happened yet, but we will be reaching out to providers that are interested in forensic, dual diagnosis, also, quite frankly, medically fragile. We have a lot of people that are medically fragile that have to have, really serious wraparound services. So those are the areas that we're looking for providers. If you are interested, I want to talk to you, okay? Because we know that in order for a provider to do that, really, they're going to have to set up more than one home. They'll probably have to set up, 4 or 5 with 4 to 6 bed, and we're going to have to pay a higher rate. That's all there is to it, okay? But we're going to start in July using the services that we have now, okay? And we're going to look at each individual And instead of having to go in for a rate increase, we're going to figure out a way to get it licensed properly so we can put the kind of services in there that pays what needs to pay to take care of those people. We're going to start that this year. Yes? Wait till you get the microphone, please.
Since
Okay, you're next. Go ahead.
since you've been on the pay scale and how it should be raised, I have 2 disabled children and no other family, none, all deceased. The fact is, we use respite care for med waiver, but because they're paid so lowly, they don't seem to entice more knowledgeable people to become child care workers. Anyway, what I was thinking is, have you reached out to the nursing schools, the colleges that teach special ed, for teachers, and asked those people to get additional experience by becoming respite workers?
I think it's a very good idea. I can't say that we have.
I think that would be great.
I know some of our people have talked with several of the colleges, but I think specifically, we have a shortage of nurses too, quite frankly. And we have a real problem with the shortage of nurses, and we've got to do something about getting the salaries of our nurses up. Not just in our agency, but all the agencies. So,
Well,
but that's a good idea. Somebody write that
Set a
down.
higher pay scale. I'm
Okay.
sure we, even those that are up in age and have their children, an empty nest, so to speak, they may want to join the forces of respite workers, but they're not going to do it at minimum wage.
Well, I think that's a good idea. Somebody write that down. And this woman has had her hand up. Okay.
My daughter is one of the medically fragile individuals, and what I was going to ask is what you basically already touched on. We're sort of stuck in a loop since she's gotten onto the waiver of she technically should be having someone like well, they told us because she's G-tube fed that we cannot use a lower level LPN or personal care assistant, that it has to be an RN. We have been on the waiver since September and have
Still
yet
don't
to
have
find a provider that even has an RN that can work with us.
Well, let me ask you something. And I mean, my staff is probably going to have apoplectic for me saying this, but do we need an RN?
That's what I was told, that we can only hire an RN because of her, because I personally,
I mean, could an LPN do this?
I would think so.
So is that somebody that's in my agency tell me, is this a rule or is this a law or what? Huh? Okay. Somebody write that down and I'll get with my sister agency and we'll discuss it. Okay? Oh, okay. Wait a minute. Okay, let me tell you what. This is important, and I will look into it. Okay, I promise you. It's a lot more complicated than just a simple answer. I can see that, but we will look into that. Yes. Okay, wait a minute. One more.
Before this lady's problem is gone, if she goes on to CDC, then she can negotiate a rate and a higher rate for that hour.
Oh, good point. Diane, let me tell you about Diane. Diane back there is always telling us everything wrong we're doing, don't you, Diane? But you know what? We learned a lot from Diane. That's the truth. But Diane, tell them what you just said, Diane.
If you go on to CDC, the Consumer Directed Care Program, you can negotiate your rate with the providers and you can have less hours but pay a higher rate.
Okay,
That way you have
CDC Plus is a program that the difference in CDC Plus and just the regular waiver is on the regular waiver, you have a waiver support coordinator that comes out and then they authorize all these providers after you have chosen them, and then they provide services. CDC Plus, you are in control, you hire the people, you are controlling everything. But The downside is you also have to keep good records. You got, I mean, you know, it's a lot of work. But you have the autonomy to negotiate rates, to do however you want to do with the amount of money you get. CDC Plus may be exactly what you need to look into.
And hire who you want to hire.
She doesn't need a nurse if she does feeding. We don't need a nurse, she could go into.
You could do CDC Plus too, but I think the question of the nurse is bigger than just that answer. But you're right, she could do that.
But under medication administration, that's one of the things that the nurses can train us. If you're a CNA, you can't do G-tube feedings and things like that. But under medication administration, under waiver, if that nurse trains that personal care worker and they have that certification, if you go to the doctor and have the doctor or the nursing staff train it, you can then do G-tube feedings.
Ah, we need to probably get that word out a little better.
Yeah. It's all under that record.
There you go.
I just wanted to offer on the staff competency issue for respite.
Whoa, stand up.
Sorry, I'm Steve Coleman of APD. Just wanted to offer that there is free training for become a registered behavioral technician. In partnership, we partner with the ARC of Florida, and there currently is training, online training, free, that otherwise would be very costly, that your staff now could get themselves involved in. And also both for families on the waiver, on the wait list, there's free training until the end of this month, and good for 6 months, called Maximum Potential Kids. It's basic principles of behavior analysis. So again, competency is critical for families and for your providers.
Okay, all right.
Hi, my name is Michelle Turquetta, and I live in Collier County. I am a provider, or would like to be a provider, but I have not been able to figure out how to be a provider, or how many people are on the wait list, or how many people are being served, or any information whatsoever.
You are brand new.
Well, I've been here for 2 years, and so whoever I need to get with about that, I mean, are you doing anything actively to recruit providers? There's nobody doing what I do.
In what county again?
Collier.
Where is that? Naples?
Suncoast.
Suncoast. But you know, you could talk with either one of these ROMs, and they could give you some basic advice, and then also give you the contact number for who to get in touch with, so that, because there are specific things that you need to do, and so on and so on. And we need providers.
Well, the person that's on the website of the person to talk to is the person who flat out says that I can't give you those numbers. That, like, is it a secret, or is there a place to find out where those numbers?
I want to know who that person is.
Okay.
No, that shouldn't be. Okay. No, really, I'm serious.
There was an issue with the phone service because they moved out. I'm Tampa. I'm Marshall I'm from Tampa, and we had it in that respect, and then it went down. The phone service went down to Fort Myers, and the people from Fort Myers did not know how to refer back. I do believe.
Is that solved now?
I do believe it is, but I'm not 100% sure. But they had to refer back. At one point, they had a list of Tampa people.
Karen, would you make note of that, please? Okay, thank you. Yes. Okay, question over here.
I have two things.
Can you stand up so they can hear you?
Hold on.
I have a friend that has a medically complex child that would like to go on the CDC Plus so that she could hire her own LPNs, but she can't because she's getting her nursing through state plan Medicaid. You know what I'm saying? She's on the waiver, and she wants to be able to go on the CDC Plus, but because it's a child under the age of 21, I guess, then she can't. Right. So it's been a fight because she can't find LPNs that will work for what the agencies pay.
Well, she's not on our waiver.
She is on the waiver.
But the nurses pay half of
It's through state plans. So
okay, somebody help me with this. Leslie, so does that mean that she can't do it on CDC Plus because ACA has to do the medical stuff?
The only service that is paid by Medicaid state plan is PCA. That's the only service that can be cashed out in CDC.
She's in charge of CDC Plus, by the way. Anybody wants to sign up? She's the one.
Although I was just speaking to the Agency for Healthcare Administration, that is a area that they are talking about.
I hope so, because this mom is exhausted.
Yeah.
Because she can't have the nursing care, and so she stays up for 3 and 4 days in a row because the agencies can't find people to help her.
Okay.
Karen, write that down. That's for me to talk with
Leon County.
Liz about. Okay.
I can contact the person I was talking to in ACA that works with CDC and ask them where they are on that. I'm not sure how close they are, but that is something they're talking about.
Well, maybe I can help expedite it.
The shortage of nurses, and there is a shortage of nurses.
Maybe I can help with that.
That would be wonderful for her. I would love to go home and tell her I have people that want to help. I would love to be able to
want to help. So we'll follow up with it and let me see. I mean, I don't know how complicated that is, but we'll find out.
It has also made exceptions in cases where they are not able to get them because the agencies don't have the nurses to be able to send.
Well, then there may be a way that we could set up a system for. Yeah, I like that idea. Even if they didn't, even if they didn't approve it, that they gave us a system to give somebody an exception to get on CDC Plus to do that.
Yes.
That would be good.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And the second thing is I'm a medical foster parent, and I take in kids with autism.
Thank you.
And so I really, really like doing it. And I know that there's changes that I can make because behaviors come in. I get the worst of the worst because no one else will. And when they leave, the behaviors are so much better. I want to develop something to help.
Well, then do. Let's give her a hand. She's doing stuff with foster care. Thank you so much for what you're doing. That's awesome.
I love it.
Well, it may be that you ought to get with Steve here, and Steve is over all of our behavior analysts and certainly could talk with you about that, but it sounds like she also could help us with some training.
I would love to.
Yeah, okay, good. We'll get with him afterwards.
Thank you.
I want to leave time for you all to talk with our staff individually. If you've got another thing that is, big, not individual. How many of you want to talk with the staff about something of your own problems? Okay. All right. We've got a few people that do. So let's take one or two more other questions, and then we'll let this happen. Any other stuff? Okay.
Well, you asked us from the Family Care Council members to share some experiences with the newer people that are getting involved. We've just joined the waiver and worked with APD very well and got the services we finally needed. However, there's a person in between APD and yourselves called the support coordinator. APD will send you a list of people in your area that are available. You'll be able to pick and choose the individual you want, but what we found out, there's support coordinators from hell and there's support coordinators from heaven. So please, if you find the support coordinator that you've chosen isn't the person that's the best match for you and your family, go right back to APD and get somebody else, and they will right away give you a new person. So keep that in mind.
Even if you've been on the waiver for a while and you didn't know that, you can change your waiver support coordinator anytime you need to. Okay? Barbara? Well, I don't know about that one. Yes?
So in relation to that, I'd like to make a suggestion that perhaps you develop a rating service on your website where people could rate their service coordinator. Because what happens is when someone comes in new to get a service coordinator, they have no idea, they're just names.
I know.
But if you could have like a, what is it?
There is a rating service, the Delmarva, you click on the name.
Well, Delmarva,
not all of them.
do they actually do a rating though, like he's talking about? I don't think
I
they
would
actually
think,
do a rating.
you know, sort of.
But I know what
Angie's
you're saying.
List kind of a thing,
It's
you know.
it's kind of a slippery slope.
I
but-
understand.
But it
except
doesn't mean I wouldn't consider it.
It's because really, when you're coming into the system, you have no idea what's going on. So
Yeah,
you
that's
can
right.
change, but there's effort
Yeah.
in changing in time.
Leslie is the ROM for the northeast part of Florida.
Good morning. The one of the things that I try to tell families when they first go on the waiver is when you get that waiver list, call and interview those support coordinators and explain your situation to them and say, can you tell me how you've helped other families in similar situations? And how have you gone through the process? And really take that time to interview the person and ask what they've done for other people and how did they get that and what kind of services did you get for an individual who was this age and had these needs and how did you troubleshoot? And it's really that meeting that support coordinator and interviewing them, that's what really gives you an idea of whether that's going to be a good match or not.
That's a very good suggestion. But I'm not against what you're saying. I think it's something we ought to maybe look at.
Lisa's been waiting, so.
Oh,
sorry.
Hi,
Okay.
Barbara. It's Lisa. How are you?
Good.
I want to thank you again for everything you've done for all of us. We have so many new families coming on, and they are so grateful.
Good.
My question is, or situation or suggestion is, when somebody's the primary or sole caregiver of a child or a loved one, a lot of us don't have any health care. Can't afford it. We have to make choices. They come first. If something were to happen to me, he would be in crisis because then he would need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So is there a way we can get some kind of exemption for either Medicaid, Medicare for us, or buy into a cheaper state program? Because quite honestly, I can't afford $500 a month and a $10,000 deductible.
You know what, I don't have the answer to that because I'm not an insurance or, expert or anything, but I would suggest if any of you were there last night, one of the things that I talked about last night was how powerful you all are. And I want to underscore that, and I'm sorry that I didn't make a bigger deal of it last night than I did because there were a lot more people there. But that is a really very important thing you just said, okay? You need to go talk to your legislators about that. And really identify, if you guys can identify, 2 or 3. Don't go in with 20 things. You go in with 2 or 3 things that are hard-hitting like that. If I can't get health care for me and something happens to me, what is going to happen here? It's going to cost twice as much money or whatever, whatever it is. Go see your legislator. You have no idea how powerful you are. And this forum that you have here is an opportunity for you all to network in ways that you can't believe. I used to lobby. I lobbied for many years, okay? And I lobbied for associations that didn't have much money. And we were effective. And the reason we were effective was because we networked. And we knew, we had a telephone tree. We knew how to get our message across. You guys have an opportunity. You have more power than you think. And the truth of the matter is, they listen to you. They care. They do care. They just don't have all the answers. You have the answers. And so if you go into, I've told my staff this, don't come to me with problems. Come to me with problems and solutions. If you can't just go in and complain about something to a legislator, you got to give them a way to solve it. Help them figure it out because there's so many things that are going on. But somebody ought to help you guys get organized politically. I mean, you've got associations that are doing things, but you're more powerful than that. You really are.
Well, there is some things that they can do. There's partners in policy making that people can take, which takes about 6 months to get your expenses paid. If you have child care that needs, they'll pay for that. There's, DD Council has some great things. Of course, I'm the new chair-elect for And I would love to see every family care council with 200 people sitting there as associate members and pull the top 15 to work and get the work done and get everybody working. Because we saw what had happened this year. We got a little bit of a raise. We're a powerful force as families. And the only thing we need to do is join together, like Barbara's saying, and work together for our loved ones to make a difference.
Well, you know, when we, just to underscore what you're saying, when we had things that we needed to get done for you all, we called the Family Care Council. They do have a telephone tree. They do have a political action kind of setup. So maybe that, you're right, maybe that is where you all need to focus, because it's already structured.
We also have a
So,
legislative platform, and we're also part of the stakeholders, which are Disability Rights and Developmental Disabilities Council and the Family Care Council. And tell me how many more there have been. Oh, there's the ARC, there's FARC, there's, I mean, and so if you don't share the problems, like you say, we don't have the solutions to take to our legislators. But if we share the problems with all the stakeholders across the state, then we can take the problem and the solution.
and you come up with a legislative platform every year.
Exactly.
And then they go working.
We listen to the other legislative platforms so that we know what we want to do as a state.
Right. Yes. He's been trying to get my attention for.
You gotta be patient. My name is Bruce Kaiser, and I think I have a pretty loud voice anyway, but we have a personal situation, but I think there's a broader question that I have, and that is, we have a grandson that had a near drowning accident 2 years ago, and he's permanently paralyzed. And we've been trying to find a group home situation which would be more intimate as opposed to, him being in some larger institution. I've been going online trying to find where these types of caregiving organizations or homes are, and I can't find anything. Everybody says, I think, call so-and-so, such and such of home caregivers up in wherever. We're in Central Florida. I call, oh no, we don't take children, we don't know who does.
Okay, let me first of all say, one of the last things I will ever do is fund a child going into a group home. I do not like to do that because it is a sentence for life. And I would rather give you whatever you need to take care of that person in your home, okay? But if you just absolutely can't do that for whatever reason, then we will try to find a place for you. And that's the reason why you're having trouble, because there aren't a lot of places that are available for children. How old is your grandson?
He's going to be 5, and we would take him into our home. I'm 71 years old. I had to go back to work because we've just adopted our 2 granddaughters, his sisters. We'd like to keep them close together, but he's a 24/7 little boy. He doesn't have a trach, but he has a G-tube, and he's totally paralyzed.
Yeah.
My wife's a 35-year-old.
Yeah,
I wish. I just made points. A 35-year teaching veteran. She's taught special needs kids, and we just can't do it. And we're just trying to find support.
Grandparents doing, what can I say? You're here, Clarence. Would you work with him some way? We need to figure out a way to really, really help them. Okay.
They had a house, a respite house. It could be used any time of day. Generally for parents that both had to work, there was no care for the child. But there was always care for the child at this respite home. They had activities director, they had a full-time nurse, they had a doctor on call, they had all sorts of things, maintenance, all the support they needed no matter what the disability
What
of the child.
state was that?
New York State.
Let's take a look at that. I like that idea.
It was run by, if you really want to know, United Cerebral Palsy.
Okay.
And with our 2 children, and like I said, no family to really take care of them.
Now keep in mind that once
they
the
were
person
great.
goes to school, they have school. But you need some help. You need some help. So Clarence is the man, okay?
Yeah,
we did. We did. But I guess I was just asking, you know, is there a number, is there a place you go where you can call and say,
No.
what do we do?
And I have to tell you, I have really, when I get crisis in and they want to do this, and I send them back and say, please go talk to the family again, see if there's any way we can do anything to keep from doing this, because it's really, and I understand, and I'm not, it's just, that's a really hard thing to do. But we will help you. We'll figure something out.
There's one home very close to our home.
Okay, we have one more question and then we have to wrap it up.
Hi, Ms. Barr. I'm LaChantia from Leon County, and my question is, I guess, a legislative question. I have 2 sons with autism. One is 14 and one is 6 kids in all. But my question is, my 14-year-old been on a waiting list since he was 3. My 6-year-old didn't qualify for services with APD, even though he had 4 diagnoses of autism. And I was told by one of the intake specialists up in Leon County that up under autism, he has to be so severe that he's not going to improve in order to get on the waiver.
Well, no, the autism there are certain levels of autism that we can't serve. And it's outlined that way, and we can't. But I don't know that that's the case in your situation. So, but that's an individual question. Let's get you with somebody after, soon, okay? Because we'll work through that with you. Okay. Okay. We need to leave. They're kicking us out. Okay? But I was just having fun, y'all. For those of you that have issues, go out there and our staff will help you. Okay? Right here.